Okay, here's the paper I've been waiting for. Now, we've been told by the Department of Health and Human... Oh, see this number right here? That's for 1 month's rent. Yeah, I'm going to show you something. Oh, I'm going to show you something. So, our rent is due on 3/5, and we try to hand my landlord the rent with a notice that gallons of water is coming in his apartment that's notarized, because we've mailed him notices for 7 years. He says he doesn't get them. We've told him verbally for 7 years. He says he doesn't get them. We reported to code enforcement. They don't care. We reported to the Department of Health and Human Services. They say notify him. So we did, and he threw me to the ground, refused to take the rent, punched me in the kidneys, kicked me in the kidneys, and did damage to me on camera. Not only that, today's date is 5/5/16. Okay, 5/16, and you can take a look at this demand for rent. Okay, now if you look, he says we didn't pay in between the dates. I'm not sure if you can. Hope this thing can get blurry. There we go. 3/1/2024. So that's not even the right rent date. He came on 3/7, and he was supposed to come by on 3/5. He was trying to avoid me so he wouldn't get any paperwork again. And he's supposed to bring a lease, so he's trying to avoid bringing us any paperwork or getting anything done. And this was the month which we tried to give him the money, and he refused to take the letter. And we can't give him the money because the money's in the letter that you need to take with it. But he doesn't want to do that. So he refuses to take the money or the letter, which I explained to him it's my legal right to give him a notice of repair. We got gallons of water coming in that window. We've shown videos. We have pictures. It's very obvious every time it rains, gallons of water coming in the wall. We have it damaging our property. We're getting sick. It's damaging our human bodies. And today is 5/16. Okay? Now, we filed a motion to withhold rent on 4/30. So we are not responsible to pay that. We're responsible to hold that. And that date has not come yet. But what does he think that this is worth? $2,485 when our rent, by the way, is $950 and he's raising it to $1,000. So he's just adding on a bunch of fees and numbers, trying to squeeze money out of us after he's already made us double pay for the same month, after he's already got an 84-year-old to do his landscaping on a hill and fall on a hill by verbal threats of abuse, verbal threats of eviction. So the 84-year-old had to do his landscaping for him, what was the worst thing I ever had to see, and I made a complaint. And now he's trying to squeeze us for more money. So we filed a complaint to withhold our rent, like we said, on 4/30. Well, here's the new paper that just came in today. Just today on 5/16. So what does he say? He wants us in court at 5/24. Not only that, look at this. He still wants the same amount of money. Same amount. Still saying. Still coming up with that shit. We filed to withhold rent. He doesn't care. He's just doing whatever the fuck he feels like. Not only that, he's saying we refuse to pay him rent, all this bullshit. He hasn't even looked at the letter, and he has a warrant out for him, but yet he knows everybody, so they're not trying to serve the warrant. Yes, they have to do their jobs, but they can take this sweet-ass time. So even though they know exactly where he is, even though they know they have to serve a warrant to him, they're trying to squeeze out every last minute to let him go. They're pulling every trick in the book to try to allow this man to hurt the health of the people of Rochester. We've already had over 20 people have their health affected for the rest of their lives. Yes, the rest of their lives. I'll show you what I mean. Ah! Oh! Oh! Oh, man, I'm not good after 7 years of breathing this shit in. When I get close, I'm going to get dizzy, so I apologize. This is going to affect my health, but it'll affect the next guy who moves in health too. Now, if you see this, mold has rotted out this complete window. As you can see, right here as the hole gets bigger. Now water still goes into the wall. It still goes in. As you can see, I tried to stop it with permission of the landlord and with maintenance. I'm asking them to fix it, but water's still coming in, and this is not the only window. The bathroom also has a hole surrounded by mold, and we have our cabinet surrounded by mold. We have a lot of our wood surrounded by mold getting eaten out, and we're not the only apartment. Upstairs has a gaping hole the size of a fist being eaten out by mold. The guy downstairs has mold eating out the window on the right. All the wood in this building is being eaten out by mold, and the siding on the outside of the building has a 20-foot by 4-foot mold growth that is eating the outside of the siding. Why? Because the inside of the siding and the inside of the wall is covered in it. So it's spreading so much to the layers on the outside that now the outside of the building is covered in black mold that's visible to everybody. Now, we took pictures before the landlord sprays it away or tries to destroy the evidence of what we're breathing in. Yes, we want it removed, but we also want to make sure all of it is removed. They just don't hide some of it and leave all of it on the inside for the tenants to breathe in. But we will be out on the street dying in the woods of our disabilities and our sickness on 5/24. This 84-year-old right there that gave me permission, right there, literally is sick. He falls down, he's shaky, he can barely stand up as he's walking. He just shook. We got this door over here. That's all boarded up due to mold, ladybugs, stink bugs, bed bugs. It's covered in all of them. We've given samples of bed bugs to the landlord, and we gave him money to spray, which they sprayed. The bed bugs are still there. We got more samples we brought him. They're crawling all over the place, and it cost us thousands of dollars. On top of this, we got black sewage in our pipes clogging up our water filters. We got mushrooms coming up our floor. Oh, and we have the biggest black. Oh, yeah. Don't forget, we're out to die in the woods because the landlord's killing us and doesn't want to get caught. And then he's going to do this to some child and some single mother next. Yes, we're not done here. There's a whole 3 apartments to harm people with, and they're affecting our health. But you would think the Department of Health and Human Services would want to service and do something about this. Do you know what the Department of Health and Human Services is doing about this landlord dumping septic tanks on property illegally, having sewage and different things going into our drinking water, having mold and people being diagnosed with heart conditions, breathing conditions, people dying, old people getting sick, old people falling, mold growing everywhere visible to anybody willing to take a look? What do you think they're doing about this? Oh, they're helping the landlord get away with it. Yes. They're purposely filing paperwork wrong. They're purposely withholding papers from police officers and lawyers. They're trying to tell the tenants that are getting hurt that there's nothing they can do. They're going to get thrown out and they should do nothing. We have Rochester officials coming to our door telling 84-year-olds there's nothing you can do. You should just stay sick and do nothing. We got a lot of fucked up shit like that. Nobody has talked to this old man about what to do about his health one bit. They just keep on telling him, well, we'll send you to a retirement home and move somebody else in. Meanwhile, there's not a retirement home in the state that would properly take care of his needs, his breathing issues, his heart, the mold inhalation, the cancer, none of it. They're trying to move him to die someplace, and they're trying to move me into the woods, and so that way I'll die. Now, I can't use a shelter. Why? Because my disabilities aren't properly documented, that my pre-existing conditions. So once when I have a seizure or fall or can't move in the morning, the shelter won't let me back in. So I have nowhere to live, yet I was working, I'm paying my rent, I had a lease, but the landlord has continued to play dirty games that have got me hurt. He's continued to withhold the lease after telling me he would bring it. He's continued to let his apartment go astray. He's continued to let wooden beams get eaten out. He's continued to let wooden windows get eaten out till waterfalls come in the apartment, which his tenants are recording. He's refused to bring salt, so old man is slipping down the hallway. He refused to change light bulbs in the hallway, so it's dark for months, which I also recorded. I mean, at like 8 o'clock at night, I'm going through a pitch black. People are falling down the hallway, and it's nighttime. You got all this shit happening, and why? Because this landlord is profiting off of it, and the city has allowed him to profit off this and hurt the weak for years. Before we moved in, there was waterfalls coming in this apartment when I first came up here to help this 84-year-old. When this 84-year-old said he moved into an apartment, but his roommate owed money and he needed me to come up and pay money, but he wasn't sure about this apartment, but he already moved in. I came up, took a look, realized that this needed a lot of work. The landlord told me he'd be putting in new windows, taking care of the mold, and maintenance would take care of any of the issues under the sink. The mold under the sink is still there growing, which I will show you now with much difficulty. Let me get my cane. I'm going to have to kneel and crawl. This is going to hurt like a motherfucker. And remember, I'm living in the woods, going off the grid, having no cell phone, no charger, totally off the grid, most likely on 524. By June, I should be totally phoneless and off the grid. So, I know. I just shook a little. Just shook to the ground. I got it. There's the kidneys. It was a sharp pain. I'm here in the bathroom. You can show them the. Even with the cane, I can't really adjust that. Okay, I tried my best to adjust this. I'll turn on a light. This was here when we moved in. Now you see those two black spots? I have another video. Now I was able to scrape that with a mask and a ventilator and get that mold spot, all that mold off there, all that black mold. But the black mold stay in the back, as you can see. Because you can see from my last video, and we've had it tested and looked at by an expert, the pile that was removed with the knife and bagged. I should take a, oh my god, I'm getting dizzy just from opening that. Oh shit. Having problems breathing. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. So, we took a sample. Oh god. Kidneys up. So we keep the litter over here because water likes to drain down the wall, as you can see. That's from all the different leaks in the mold holes. It also likes to drain straight down there, but the most is, if you can see, water pours down that hole, which connected the outside, because mold has rotted its way in, black mold. As you can refer to my other videos, so you can guess that the landlord is going to pull every dirty trick in the book. The Rochester is going to back him and try to make sure the tenants are unhealthy. The Department of Health and Human Services are going to try to make sure that somebody else becomes unhealthy by moving in here. They're going to try to hide the mold by spraying out the outside of the building, maybe putting some paint on the window, and then somebody else will be moving in, and they will definitely get very, very sick, as you can see from these videos. So, the Department of Health and Human Services and the landlord is responsible for the death of these elderly people, these disabled people, and anybody who comes in after us at 314 Rochester Hill Road, apartment 3J, the apartment above 3J, and the apartment below 3J are all health hazards, and the Department of Health and Human Services has known about this for over 7 years, and the code enforcements have known about this for over 7 years, and there's been multiple complaints, over 20 complaints with videos and pictures brought to the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as brought to code enforcement, that clearly show a health hazard and clearly show that people have died and already getting sick. There are some people who have lost their jobs, limbs, or their livelihoods, or are suffering greatly because of the landlord's choice to neglect his property, let mushrooms grow in, not change light bulbs, not salt the driveways, let water come in the walls for 20 years while mold rots out the outside of his building, let mold grow all over his building, meanwhile neglecting all wooden frames and all parts of his property, building 3. Not once has he repaired any of the necessary repairs necessary for these 3 apartments. He's left them in such bad shape that when I first moved in, there was cigarette burns in the carpet, a hole in the door, mushrooms in the floor, mold, black mold under the sink, gallons of water coming in one window, and a lot of water coming in another. And the 84-year-old old man already was convinced to rent this apartment out already was told that this stuff is fine and this is a healthy apartment, and he already was stuck with it. He already moved in with somebody else, he couldn't get out of it. So at this point, I came up to help him move out and help level everything out, which I started getting sick, losing my money, losing my wages, losing my health, having more seizures than ever, what I didn't think would happen. But the landlord lied through his teeth over and over, not telling me the risk of his apartment, as well as the New Hampshire Health and Families did not. The Department of Health and Human Families did not do their job. Code enforcement did not do their job, and Rochester has done everything possible to make sure that more people get sick. I like to see them in court really, really try to help the health of the citizens that are paying taxes, working in this society and in Rochester. I have never collected a dime from the state in my life. I've worked a job since I've been up here. I've never collected Social Security. Only my father collected during childhood and then crashed it all. I was supposed to collect, but I've never collected disability a day in my life. I've worked while having seizures on the side of the road. I've kept commerce going at essential service businesses. Meanwhile, everybody else plays video games and collects 600 every 2 weeks. I've literally busted my ass for this town. I've given my soul, my health, and my money. And Rochester is going to ruin the people's health that pay taxes and work in this town. I literally run an essential service in Rochester, and yet they're willing to let me get sick and get hurt for the rest of my life to protect a little bit of money coming from one douchebag that has a record a mile long. A record of assaulting tenants, a record of using hate language, a record of making old man do his landscaping, a record of assault, a record of lying, a record of going to the courts constantly for failures to maintain his properties, a record of all different types of lies and different types of just manipulative behavior and stories that try to get his way